What is up? It is 5:30 Eastern, everybody. MLB Lock Show, DFSArmy.com. You are joined here by Chapadong, and then the rotating chair today brings back the OG. Razzle sitting in the chair. He, I didn't ask what happened with the day off or his ability to get back in here for a day or whatever. I mean, it's your only day of the week, right?
Yeah, the only day this week. But
what brought about the ability? Did you just have a day off?
No, just adjusting my time. My daughter has softball games on Wednesday or Monday nights. So I already blocked off leaving early, so I just left
Awesome.
10 minutes earlier than that. And
what time do you got to get out of here today?
Today, normal time. I don't have to be to the park till 5:50. She's going to be late to her game because she has dance first on Mondays and then gets to the field at about 5:50 Central. So I have time on Mondays.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't pressed for time or something, since we didn't actually talk about that specifically this afternoon. So anyway, what I wanted to do for everybody while you guys are getting settled in and piling in, and Razzle's doing some number crunching and stuff like that, we had a new guest in here, at 4 o'clock up there with Cujo saying, thanks for the show. And I don't know if he pronounced his name Hever or Ever or ever. I really don't know. I'm assuming the H is silent, but basically asks what would be the best batters to go for on the main slate today. Kind of new to this. It's the kind of new to this that I wanted to key on, because every once in a while I kind of want to walk through the tools and the tabs and things like that. And it won't take long, but while you guys are getting settled in, you old dogs, go grab a beer, grab a soda, grab whatever, a pop, if you call it that in your world, in your area of the world. And we'll Razzle's piling up some numbers. I'm just going to go tab, and then we'll jump right on into the show. So as always, like, subscribe, take a look at the banner scrolling across there, MLB Live, for a coupon code for 10% off becoming a VIP, because that's where we actually get to do the talking, the coaching, the detailed back and forth, and showing you how to use these tools. But without further ado, I'm going to dive in, and we're just going to show you these tools as we go. Hopefully, either you're in the room and you're watching, because this is absolutely for you. The weather station tab is on the MLB page. Oh, by the way, we're doing a free week of MLB only. So if anybody's new and you want to take a zero risk opportunity to dive in here and check us out for free, you get access to all this stuff that I'm getting ready to show you for free for 7 days. That doesn't mean you do it now and you're done on Sunday. It means you do it now and your coupon or whatever expires next Monday. So you get 7 full days. Check us out, win a lot of money, and then become hooked for life, because that's the first week's free. The weather station shows you briefly, temperature, wind around the league, the game, the matchups, the whatever else. Most importantly, delay and postponement risks. When the delay risk gets a little bit high, it depends on if it's coming early in the game, late in the game, kind of tells us what we're doing with the starting pitchers. And if it's not too high, we're not too worried about the bats. But if the PPD risk, the postponement risk, gets high, then we definitely probably avoid the game as a general rule. You can look at air density, hitter rating, pitcher rating, all that good stuff. Red is bad, green is good. Now, you're going to find that theme throughout all of our DFS Army tools. Red is bad, green is good, for the perspective that you're looking at the tool. The next tool to show you would be the chalkboard. That tab, if I zoom in on it just a smidge so you can actually see the numbers, starts with the pitchers, and it goes through position by position, catcher, first base, second base, etc. Lists the top players by ownership. Ownership helps us determine where everybody's going, who the popular players are tonight. And then we, as a collective, use people like Razzle and other coaches to tell us whether or not we should get on that guy or get off that guy. It shows you a little bit of, point per dollar, projection, price. I'm not going to bore you with all of that stuff. It's pretty straightforward. But you can actually build lineups right off of this list and right off of this tool when you look at, let's say, the high ownership guys, maybe for cash games because everybody's kind of using them and whatever else, or some low ownership guys that are maybe in a good spot too that you see that are kind of a little under the radar from where you think they should be, and you might put them in some tournaments. But again, quickly just going through the tabs: catcher, first base, second base, shortstop over here on this side, third base, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a quick overview preview of what you're looking at for where the popular players are going to come from, on any given slate. Just for the main slates, you're not going to find that for the small 3-game after hours type slates and whatnot. The Next tool that I use a lot. I mean, I use all these tools, but I use this one a lot. And this is Nilly's Carnage Report. I'm going to blow up that one a bit too. The reason why is it gives me an overall rating for that pitcher in his matchup. Again, green is good, red is bad. On this particular sheet, blue is better. You can see over here on this far right side, the purple is extremely good, blue, very good, and green, yellow, red, dark red. I use this in two ways. I use this number one for pitchers. I'm looking at the pitchers, getting an idea. I haven't done any numbers research or anything yet. Getting an idea. Okay, Schmidt's in a good matchup. Now, I may not like him. Maybe I do. I don't know. I'm going to lean on Razzle for that again. You got McCullers, you got Abel, Jake Irvin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I look over here next because you can see this Carnage number is proprietary. Don't know what to tell you how he creates that. But XWOBA is expected WOBA, ISO's power numbers against, and then K-score and VK score. I do use those to a degree. I'm looking for blues. I'm looking for numbers over 500. That guy has strikeout potential in his matchup tonight, especially the VK score. Sometimes it helps me find somebody who's maybe a little under the radar if I can't talk to Razzle for that particular day. And then I use the reverse of this down here at the bottom for what stacks I might like, because these are the opponents. This isn't, Clark Schmidt is not an Angel. He's not an LA Angel. He's a New York Yankee. Down here tells me that there's not a lot of data, but then your Washington Nationals, your Houston Astros, your New York Yankees, these guys are in pretty good matchup spots according to the quality of pitcher that they're going against tonight, and that can help you start identifying stacks. Once you get on those stacks, you kick over to the leverage tab, and this leverage tab sorts by column. You can sort by salary, you can sort by ownership. I like to sort by ownership, and if I put the red stuff at the top, that's the higher owned players or teams on the slate. Philadelphia, in theory, chalky stack, Washington, San Diego, Tampa Bay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that helps me find players, teams that people aren't necessarily targeting that based on that Carnage report might be in a pretty good spot. This is all overwhelming. It's a learning curve. That's what the coaches are for, to guide you through it. But sometimes some people use these grades and points per dollars and whatever. I don't. I will sort by IRT sum, which is implied run total, bring those guys up to the top. And I like to look for, there's a high correlation between a high implied run total and a high team ownership. And then, a lot of times you'll find that, like down in here, the 62 and 63%, those were your chalky teams. It looks like the higher implied run totals, 5.95, 5.57. Those guys are a little bit under the radar for whatever that's worth. Again, we'll consult Razzle on that stuff here as I turbo through these tools. The leverage rank, though, that's a really, really good one. This is just telling you based on ownership, based on projections, based on, pitching matchup, based on its, power of the offense, blah, blah, blah. This is a team that if it does succeed tonight and have a good night, you should gain a lot of leverage on the field for your tournaments. We want to gain leverage on the field in our tournaments because we want to climb the leaderboard with less and less and less competition as we go. It helps us do that. And we use this tool quite a bit on this show too. What's next? Starting lineups page. This one is really fancy and sophisticated at times. It confirms the lineups, gives grades, gives prices, gives pitching stuff at the bottom, gives some lineup stats, basic WOBA, ISO, K%. It's basically just your starting lineups page. Once it goes confirmed, this little status down here in the lower right-hand corner of a team, this confirmed spot will tell you this lineup is set for tonight, barring some kind of weird late scratch that freaks us all out. This is the lineup you're going to see with Philadelphia, Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and the lineup hole that they're in and their basic numbers, basically. So you can build lineups off of this page too if you see offenses that you like, et cetera. It's a good catch-all type of page. I won't dive into details of the research station either, other than to show you really quickly that it is filterable by team, by time, by position, et cetera. And if you scroll, it's got all your salary info. It's got your ownership info. It does show you bullpen info, what players are going up against, what bullpens, how that bullpen performs, et cetera, et cetera. We want to target weak bullpens as a general rule in this game. And if I can get over to the hitters, which I should be on, I can also scroll over here and show you 2025 season numbers versus lefties splits versus righties splits, 7-day trends, 14-day trends, 28-day trends, or 30-day trends. These are kind of the trends tabs, are the things that when I go diving deep into numbers, is what I'm looking for. If I compare the 7-day trend to the 14-day trend. If a guy's 7-day trend is better than his 14-day trend, he might be heating up. If it is worse than his 14-day trend, he might be cooling off or running cold. Kind of helps me break the ties when I'm looking for specific players. But this has every stat in it that you need to build lineups and target your player yourself. Or you can dive into our cheat sheets which once I click to open these things in Google, you can see there's a whole bunch of different plays down here in these little tabs. We've got our core plays from our coaches. This will fill in later throughout the day as we get data and as the coaches do their research. Your DraftKings, which was done by Razzle, has a lot of stuff on it. Razzle, what's the red again? Is that injury or is that scratch?
Scratch, and it's just not in lineup.
Just not in the lineup. So these guys are all of a sudden kind of scratched off the sheet. But the blue plays are your core plays, which is generally who you're wanting to build. I'm actually kind of surprised to see you have Clark Schmidt as a blue play, but we'll talk about that a little bit too. And over here on the right, you see confidence ratings with stars. You see notes. You see some of the basic stats again. This is actually probably the most important thing that we do. And it's why I don't show it very often on a free show, because it is a very VIP, very premium tool. But you need to be aware of it, because if you get home from work and you're kind of rush, and you got to get in a couple of plays, you didn't catch this show, whatever, then you can get in here and you can look at this sheet, and man, you can be up to speed in a flash without using the research station, without using the Carnage report, without using some of those tools that I just showed you. You can dive into this and you can put together a very, very competitive team. This is not just some grid of, oh, here's the 3 guys for value and here's the 3 guys that are high priced. Screw that. Our coaches dive into big time detail, and they've done the research for you, which helps you build better lineups. And then, of course, the domination station, which we also use quite a bit from show to show. When I pull that up, it has your basic team matchups, and then it has all your players, all of your ownerships, all of your stuff. And this is where you're going to maybe either adjust the projections yourself or set up your stacks or set up, again, a little bit overwhelming, a little bit of a growth curve. But if you've never used an optimizer before, it takes you a couple of afternoons to kind of get the hang of it. And then you're off and flying like the rest of us. And the more time you put into learning it, the more control you'll find you have over building your lineups, whether you're building 1 lineup, 3 lineups, 20, 50, 100, 150, or in some cases we'll ask Razzle at some point how many he's building tonight, because I've heard numbers as high as 600, which about make my head explode. But that's how he plays the game, and that's why it's a good person to have in your corner when it comes to building these lineups and becoming a member here at DFS Army. So thank you for bearing with me. That was about as fast as I could possibly do that across those MLB tabs. But let's go ahead and get the rest of it started. Razzle, how's your I guess past couple of weeks going? It's been a while since we've talked. Have you been playing well, playing poorly, getting the variance bug biting you in the butt? What's going on?
Over the weekend, played pretty well. I hadn't been MMEing much, just a bunch of hand builds each day, just because tough to know when I'm going to make it home from the office some of those days. So hand builds haven't been the greatest, but yeah, jumped back into the MME world on Saturday and had a profitable weekend. So we're MMEing again tonight. So
all right, good. Because depending on the coach that usually is with me on this show or whatever, Razzle's a big MME guy, does a lot of big lineups. Tattoo's more of a smaller field guy. Darth Pasta goes both ways. I go both ways. So you really kind of run the spectrum depending on who you're talking with tonight or on any given night. I noticed that we're already getting some questions in here, which is awesome. Guys, ask those questions. We'll get to them here in a bit. I wanted to start with the weather station and ask Razzle what he sees, what he doesn't see, if he even cares about weather today, because it doesn't look like there's much red on this thing.
No, the only weather that intrigues me is the warm weather in for Tampa Bay and in Sacramento. I guess I don't really know which city the Tampa Bay ballpark is in anymore.
Let's call it Central Florida.
If it's Fort Myers, I know the Yankees.
Is it really?
Well, the Yankees spring training used to be in Fort Myers because they used to be with the Twins too, but it might be a different location now. But
one of them's in a town called Dunedin or Dundee or something like that. I think it's
Dunedin?
Toronto.
Toronto is.
Okay. And maybe Baltimore in that area?
Maybe.
We've vacationed down there before, and I've seen them, and I'm like, where are my Cardinals at? Well, they're across the other side of the state. So, yeah, warm weather for sure. If that's Fort Myers, that's not even the Tampa area. That's South Florida.
Yeah, they're playing at the Yankees AAA park, so spring training. I don't know, whatever.
You know what? Somebody in the comments can probably tell us in a flash because they'll have access to Google and.
Oh, it is in Tampa.
Oh. Okay.
George M. Steinbrenner Field is located in Tampa, according to this search. So,
well, there you go.
but it is a minor league park. It is affected more by weather than any other park. Same with Sacramento for the A's. Slight winds blowing out there, strong enough, plus warm. Probably a good spot to target offenses.
Yeah. Generally speaking, and our other buddy Uppers lad can tell you that Tampa Bay's made him a lot of money in those mini-max tournaments this year because he's targeting that warmth in that stadium. So, yeah, strong idea for sure. What I'm seeing here when I like to use the DS if I'm not going to use a chalkboard as a whole, and I'll sort those pitchers by ownership here. And I'm seeing 45% on Logan Gilbert, 35% on Clark Schmidt. Changed a little bit from this morning. 20% Jake Irvin, whatever. Those are the guys that are being indicated to us that the field thinks are in good matchups. Agree, disagree, any lower owned pivot, obviously refer people to your video in the morning. That'd be probably a good thing.
I mean, obviously some of the video is different just because we had McCullers scratched, which moves ownership since he was going to be one of the higher owned. That's automatically going to shift some ownership to Clark Schmidt and Logan Gilbert, which we see now. This latest update saw them both jump. I am shocked that Jake Irvin is not higher owned. Like, people just aren't clicking pitching against Colorado, apparently. Abel against Miami. I mean, I realize he's expensive for a guy that's got 3 career starts, but to see him at just 8% projected ownership seems pretty low. I'm not really chasing his debut start because that could easily be his best start over the next couple seasons, but just a low number. So I'm going to end up 2 to 3 times the field on Abel, but curious to see what ends up with Cease ownership. The last time he faced the Dodgers, he dominated them, and he was super popular for some weird reason. And all of a sudden tonight, he's not popular at all.
Yeah, that's always weird when it goes back and forth. And it's not like he's got a bunch of competition on this slate that really name brand should be eaten into that competition. So,
right, and the A's just announced that they are for sure throwing Mitch Spence. That's been up in the air all day. It was between him and Springs. So now I am interested in Mitch Spence. I wasn't interested in Springs. Spence has been dominant against right-handed bats, and Houston is loaded with right-handed bats.
It's a couple of lower-owned people to key on. That's cool. And I'm assuming you mentioned more details about those guys in your video.
Yeah, so. Most of them didn't really talk about Spence just because we had – I referred to Springs this morning, and if Springs was going to be the starter, Houston was going to be one of my favorite stacks, but – since that's not the case, I am now making an adjustment to my pitcher pool.
Okay, and we might actually watch for an adjustment to ownership or something in the next couple of updates here as the lock gets nearer, because I don't know, maybe he starts getting discovered more than 3%.
Could be.
Be interesting to see, but that's at least 2 lower-owned guys. He's not going to be chalk, that's for sure. It's too late for that. He would be projecting more ownership if he was going to be. So those are a couple of ways to get off of it. Let's dive in really quickly to leverage stacks. I'm going to jump over here and do the IRT thing just because that's where I like to start. Correlates high with ownership, and you'll start seeing in this ownership column as I go down the IRT, you guys can look at these ownership numbers. And nobody's really all that high today. I've seen higher even on a Tuesday, which is weird for the 7-game slate. No Coors. You'd think somebody would be leader of the pack, and maybe Razzle will tell us that somebody's projecting, they should be more owned than they really are projecting on this particular sheet. But what I look for when I'm doing my little bit of research is anything over a 5. So that gives me about 4 to 5 teams. If you want to count, the Athletics in there, great. But Houston, who would be somewhere top 5, top 10 in ownership, but not the top. New York, LA, same diff, 43 to 46% on those guys. Then you got a little bit of a chalk indicator in the cheaper Washington Nationals. Philly looks popular, which is interesting. And then those Athletics are really, really low, but they're still projecting at a 5 implied run total. So there's a couple of overlooked teams right there. that, I mean, I could almost key in on and be good if I didn't have time to do research. But since I do have a little bit of time to utilize Razzle's research, we probably ought to play the guessing game. We haven't been able to do this for a couple of weeks. Probably be able to play the guessing game with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, the way Razzle organizes his teams and his stacks. So while I leave this up here, you guys in the comments can start taking shots at who you think. He said Houston was one of his favorites, and now it's maybe not. I'm going to guess he put them in tier 2 or tier 3. So I'm going to start. I'll lead us off with the Yankees. Are the Yankees in tier 1?
They are not.
They are not. There we go. There we go. I like it. What tier did they land in?
Tier 3.
Tier 3. How far did Houston fall?
Tier 3 as well.
Tier 3. Wow. Okay. There's 2. You guys take it away. I missed. I swung and missed. So it's time for you guys to jump in there. Let's see. Give it a couple of seconds for these things to come in here. There's a Washington. Where's Washington rank for you? Are they tier 1?
Tier 2. Or I mean 3.
2.
Sorry, they're
3.
Borderline tier 2, but they made it in tier 3.
God,
if it was a right-handed pitcher for Colorado, I'd be more interested in Washington.
Okay. We are so rusty. We're so rusty with this game. But here comes Harlock says Tampa. So show me Tampa.
Tampa Bay is a tier 1 team for me.
There we go. All right, Harlock, he's got
big time split difference for them when they get to play at home.
Offensive
wise. I've been having conversations with Uppers Lad when they've been on the road recently and trying to talk him out of being heavy on them, because obviously he has an affinity to play them based on the amount of money they've won him, but they're just a different team on the road.
We call that recency bias or selective bias, whatever we want to call it when it comes down to that. I see Cujo and Tattoo saying Philly. So, all right, give me Philly. Where are we at?
Philly is a tier 1 team. Now, this one is worrisome. They made it in tier 1 because they actually have strong history against Sandy Alcantara.
Right.
I am not ready to crown Sandy Alcantara as back, even though he looked good last time out. Much weaker opponent last time out. I would like to see him be dominant, but for my money-wise, I don't want him to be.
Well, that makes sense. Let's see. Washington was tier 3, Don. I'm going to type that in the comments for you there. So who are we left with? Well, Houston fell, Tampa. You guys are the ones. I guess I'm not even looking at. You guys got to catch me on this. I'm looking at the domination station. I meant to be looking at the tier 1, at the leverage stacks. So let me change that and show you those IRTs I was talking about before and how that changes Houston, LA, blah, 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 down here with these ownerships. I'm just going to start going down the list. Give me the LA Dodgers. Where are we at?
Tier 3.
Tier 3, man. I am off.
Most of the Dodgers lineups been kind of cool, and obviously Cease just carved them up. So I get there's going to be a lot of energy in that ballpark with Ohtani throwing an inning, making his first pitching return in 600 days or whatever. But
actually, there's no better time to talk about that than right now. But you said I think everybody knows he's on some sort of pitching limit. I told Razzle before the show that somebody's going to say that maybe he's in line to, go deep in the game and whatever else. And I said, how much would you bet that he throws a complete game? And Razzle said, there's no amount of money, no amount of money that somebody could bet him to make him take Ohtani throwing a complete game, which I think we all know is a joke, tongue in cheek, haha, hee in terms of the thing. But somebody out there in a 500,000 person contest probably would start Ohtani. So don't do that. That probably about wraps it up unless you've got something else to say about Ohtani pitching tonight. I know we want him as a bat.
No, I mean, you can't even use Ohtani as a pitcher on DK. I haven't looked at FanDuel at all, but I mean, he's going to throw an inning as an opener. K-prop this morning was 1.5, juiced pretty solidly to the under, which is why I feel very confident in that it's just one inning. I mean, if it's 2 innings, then he probably goes over that 1.5, but that would be the max for me. There's 0 rehab starts to this, right? Like this has just been side sessions, bullpens, etc. So I think they're probably going to use him as an opener as his rehab at the major league level, 1 to 2 innings at a time for a while.
Yeah, Ivan thought he wouldn't pitch until 2026. Obviously, that changed. Was that originally the plan, and did that change in your mind?
It might have been, but then it turned into the second half of the season, and now I think they've pretty much done what I said they would. I think they're just having him throw his bullpens in games now.
Okay, I was going to say, why would they rush him?
I mean, I don't even think it's rushing, right? Like he had
not for bullpen sessions, but I mean,
he had the surgery in 2023. It's not like he had the surgery middle of last year.
That's true.
You know, so like they've taken it easy with him for the most part. It's just they probably didn't have a plan, because how do you do it? Like you can't send him out on rehab starts, because then you lose his bat in the lineup.
You mean we haven't seen a pitcher and a hitter at the same time before in the history of this game, or at least in the last 100 years?
We haven't seen one coming back from Tommy John. That's for sure.
True. That's for damn sure.
I mean, Brooks Keichnick, right? Like he's a guy that I remember teams would start at DH, and he was a relief pitcher and got a bunch of at bats. Mike Lorenzen started in the outfield once. So there are some guys, but yeah, Tommy John wise, first instance of that. There's no game plan to follow.
Right. No book on it.
For bringing him back.
Right. Well, let's carry on with some of those leverage stacks here. I mean, I guess I got to say Athletics if I'm just going straight down the list. Somebody else said Tampa. We got them. Yeah, Athletics. Are they tier 2?
The Athletics are in tier 2. They would have been tier 3. Sorry, the other way. If McCullers was still starting. Gusto is just weak enough for me to bump them up. So basically they flip-flopped with Houston. Okay. Houston originally was going to be tier 1 or 2. But then once the A's made the pitching change, they dropped down. The A's jumped up. And see, Tattoo Freaks question, yeah, there's only 2 teams in tier 1, Philly and Tampa Bay.
Right. That was what I was assuming as well. So I'm going to guess Seattle's tier 2.
Seattle is tier 2. They're the top tier 2 team. I just like to pick on Giolito. I don't care.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep. Every time.
He has dominant starts, and then he has hit starts. Like there's nothing really in between. So I'll take the GPP upside of Seattle.
Absolutely. So how many teams do you have in tier 3? Just 3? Or tier 2, I mean, just 3?
Tier 2 is 3 teams.
3 teams. So we got 1 left, and the rest of them kind of don't matter a ton. You can probably rattle them off here in a little bit. But let's see, who wants to take Miami or Baltimore, or who has a deeper guess like the LA Angels? Because we know Tattoo's talked about the upside of the Angels before. Just depends on the matchup there. Who is going to get in there first? Colorado is tier 1 for Tattoo. Not for Razzle. This is Razzle's game, buddy. You get tomorrow.
Definitely not for me.
I'm gonna say I cannot do Miami. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say Baltimore for tier 2.
It is Baltimore. All
right.
It feels somewhat wrong because I do like Pepio a decent amount, because he's actually a reverse splits guy. Has been pretty dominant against left-handed bats, and we know Baltimore is going to send out plenty of left-handed bats. But the big reason they're in tier 2 is the ballpark and the weather.
Yeah. I'm going to dive up here to the top, back with Deaver, and show his question about what's the best way to go for batters on the main slate. Today's kind of new to this. I'm going to tell you stack. Right? Obviously, baseball has high correlation. So we're going to stack. We're going to pick an offense as our primary offense, however many lineups you're building. We're going to try and put 4 bats on FanDuel or 5 bats on DraftKings in that lineup, from that lineup, because if that team really, really goes off, you're going to want a lot of bats in that lineup, typically in your DFS lineup as well. But I'm going to let Razzle tell you about the 5x2, 5x3, 4x, whatever type of stuff, and when to use what and how to use it. So he can probably explain it better than I can. So how would you attack those batters if you were new to the game, Razzle?
Being new, I'm going to stack, but I'm actually probably not going to 5-2 stack. I do think that takes a little bit of, I don't know, understanding of how to get things to line up. I'm probably going to focus more on like 3-3 or 3-2 stacks. Try to understand what it takes to build a stack. Try to get the 3 most important guys on a team for your main stack, and then work on being able to pair them with other stacks. The reason I do say that
those 3 guys would be. I know it varies by team, but generally, what are you looking for to find those guys?
I mean, those 3 guys are generally going to be in the top 5 of the lineup.
There you go.
But this allows you to get used to stacking, but it also gives you some leeway. 5-2 is you're basically jamming your 5 guys in and then trying to find a 2-man stack around that. A 3-2 gives you a little more maneuverability to get that 2-man stack, and then you can work on nailing some one-offs around it for home runs, that kind of upside. And it also just allows you to play with your pitching a little bit more too, even though I don't mess around much with pitching. I find my pool, and that's all I go with.
So my guess would be that once you've kind of got those basics down, you've been doing this for, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, then you're going to start getting a better feel for when you can expand that stack, when maybe you need to pick a different team because it's problematic or whatever. You'll start kind of getting a feel as you build some experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, the experience is the big thing. Then, I mean, it's comfortability even more than actual experience, right? Like, you get used to it, and then as you get used to MLB DFS, then you might jump into larger field stuff too. And in that instance is when you're definitely going to want to go with the 5-2 or 4-3 on FanDuel.
What contests would you recommend him start off with if he's new to it? Would you recommend him go all the way down to cash games like 50-50s or head-to-heads, or would you recommend him maybe start with 20-man leagues or small field GPPs, or where?
I'd probably go with small field GPPs. Like I think head-to-head and cash is probably still going to be pretty tough to beat.
I agree.
When you get started. So I'd look at single entry 3 max. There's the $1, the $3.
And that's because the playing field levels when it's a single entry tournament, and even the pro out there can only put 1 lineup in that contest. That tends to level the field, because you don't have someone like Razzle in there who knows how to leverage 8 lineups of the Athletics versus 20 lineups of Houston or whatever. They only get 1 shot, so they have to take their best shot, and they have to stick it in the same contest you're in, which tends to help the beginner a good bit. So that's a very, very good point to point out to a newer player. Really good stuff. Or 3 max, like you said. Anything else that you would do in terms of targeting that stuff? Because when you're maneuvering around a little bit, I mean, how big a contest would you consider, I guess, small field? Where would you start to cut it off and say, let's try not, and maybe for a little while here in the beginning, let's try not to go bigger than, say, 500 or 1,000 people?
I mean, I'd probably go around 1,000.
Okay.
I mean, to me, 1,000 people is still relatively small with how, cashing works in 20%. Like,
how much of your bankroll would you use? Let's say I put $100 on a site tonight. Would you $10? $5? $50?
As a noob or newer person to it?
I'm thinking mostly as newer, or even a struggling player is trying to reset the system.
Then it's probably like $2 or $3, right? Like 2%, 3%. Like, I mean, I'm playing 5 to 10% per night, and I've been doing this for way too long. Some nights I guess I can go to 12 to 15%, depending on the type of contests that are out there. They have some big prize pool, high dollar something or other. But generally, I try to tell people to aim for 5%. But if you're new, like, go even smaller, 2 to 3%, and
right,
learn, I guess.
Well, my idea to that would be you're using this initial deposit maybe as education, and you need to give yourself a time frame to get familiar with the tools, get up to speed, give yourself a chance to put together some really, really competitive lineups and have winning chances. Instead of just, I put $100 on there, I'm going to just do $50 tonight, and then in 2 days be completely buzzed and be like, God, I didn't even get to use my free week because I'm done. That is what we're really trying to do, is teach beginners or struggling players or whatnot to be a little bit more tempered in their expectations and a little bit more tempered in the amount of money that they throw at it, because this isn't just throw $1,000 at it, get rich tomorrow. This is a skill, and it takes time to develop that skill. Cool. Let's do Uncle Cheese here. He said, is he crazy for having Pepio as his favorite pitcher after Schmidt tonight?
I mean, there's probably a little craziness to it, but I mean, he's in my pool. He's one of my 8 pitchers. I think I'm at 8. Yeah. Or I'm at 7. I can't count right now. 8. He's going to be my 4th highest owned, roughly. So, I mean, it's not terrible. It's just volatile with that ballpark.
Yeah. Yep. Understood. Harlock saying the first week is free. Sounds like something a drug dealer would say. That was kind of why I phrased it that way, of course. And Chuck, with the poker questions, hit me up in DM, buddy, because we can talk about that stuff. I don't want to knock the show off the rails. Still playing in Tampa. Yeah, still playing in Tampa. Crazy for loving Pepio today. Uncle Cheese double times 2. There's all the guesses. Let's make sure we don't see another question sitting in here, down here at the bottom. 11-14, last 15. So can you run through top cash plays tonight and top home run calls, says Uncle Cheese. Neither one of us play a ton of cash. Like I've shown before, when I do like to use ownership as my crutch. So I would use that chalkboard tool heavily, or I would use the domination station here and use these ownerships. You've seen me go through position by position, uncheck everybody, check back everybody that's somewhere in the top 3 to 5 players. Look for a little bit of a breakpoint drop off, like here, 45 and 35 for Gilbert and Schmidt. If I'm playing cash games, even if I don't like Schmidt that much or whatever, I might drop that down because that drop off is so big. These guys are going to be higher owned than this, even in cash games, because these are GPP projections. And I just like to use the protection of that when I'm trying to build a cash lineup. It's not the most effective way to do it, but it is pretty effective, especially if you can get up against some casuals. Razzle, who would obviously you'd start with your core and Clark Schmidt, but where else would you go in? Is there anybody that stands out to you as either a deep, deep value or heavy chalk, or something that you would throw into a cash lineup and kind of start your build around Schmidt? I mean, so-and-so?
I would start out with Schmidt, Jake Irvin. I think that's my most used hand-built combo.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are just automatically going to Logan Gilbert because Boston traded away Devers, but Gilbert is coming back off the IL, probably in the 80 pitch range. I'm just not sure that I want to go there when I can go cheaper with Schmidt and then Jake Irvin against Colorado. I mean,
which do you trust more? Do you trust Irvin more to basically get you 16 points versus Logan Gilbert getting you 18 to 20?
I mean, well, I don't look at it that way. I'm not looking for a value return at all. I just think that he's probably safer. His matchup is softer. He's not obviously the same pitcher that Logan Gilbert is. Logan Gilbert was pretty dominant before getting hurt, but still, I'm just like been saying it for a while now. Like, you see who's pitching against Colorado, you just plug them in. So to see him at 19% projected ownership just blows my mind, especially after losing McCullers, who they were both basically the same price. I would have thought all that ownership would have jumped right to Jake Irvin, and it didn't. So, I mean, I'd start out with Schmidt and Irvin, and then you build out your lineup the way you want with your stacks. And if you magically have $1,600 left and you want the upside of Gilbert, then go for it. Gilbert's got to be more efficient now because
or the upside of a bat. I mean, 1,600 buys you a bat too.
Yeah, I just my longstanding thing is a cheaper bat can match the most expensive bat. The cheaper pitcher generally can't match the ceiling of the most expensive pitchers.
Absolutely.
So if Gilbert was going to throw up to 100 pitches, then I'd feel better about it, feel safer. But we've seen guys come back from IL stints and struggle the first start and a half from a control standpoint. Like, he still could be good from a run prevention standpoint. But if he struggles from a control standpoint and is topped out at 5 innings, right, goes 4 2/3 or something, I just don't feel, that excited about it. So maybe Irvin's just safer.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing it at all. Don asks what pitcher you might like for larger fields. Again, you're probably going to start with Schmidt. Would you still use Irvin, or would you drop further down that list if you were single entry building a large field type lineup, just one lineup?
Single entry, large field, I could see pivoting from Schmidt to McAble for more. Schmidt's 5 times is owned. The one guy that's just obviously jumped in my pool, Mitch Spence, is super intriguing for me. Could be super volatile, but Houston could be without Paredes again. Plus, we already know, like I mentioned, and I'll bring up the numbers here just so I can quote them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But this season against right-handed bats, Mitch Spence is allowing a slugging of 255, an OPS of 527 to right-handed bats. And Houston, super right-hand heavy. Just going to be a spot that I'm going to be happy to attack. He threw in relief against Houston once for an inning and 2/3 and struck out 3 of the 5 outs, 3 of the 6 batters he faced. But he's been really good, like I said, especially against right-handed bats. And I'm just going to attack the splits that I see in front of me. And it's kind of what I've been doing with Houston all season long. Like, anytime I find a pitcher that's stronger against right-handed bats, they just automatically are in play for me against Houston. They might have 2 left-handed bats in the lineup tonight. A lot of nights they've had 1 or 0. So I will gladly take my chances there, even in a ballpark that is an offensive environment. Spence has allowed just 1 home run to right-handed bats on the season. 1 of the 5.
Well, it shuts down a large portion of, based on splits anyway. Makes it harder for him anyway. What are your thoughts on Gusto again?
He ended up just coming out of my pool once Spence was announced as a starter on the other side. Gusto was in my pool just initially, but he's been hit hard by left-handed bats. There's some left-handed power plus Rooker's hot. I just decided to remove him. You could tell me that you're going to play him and remove Soriano, and I wouldn't blame you.
Okay, I'm going to play him.
Soriano's just been a little better against both sides of the plate, and the Yankees have been striking out a little bit more recently. Judge struggling.
Well, so I'll play him and I'll play him and I'll remove Soriano.
It's just, it'll fit. I like to attack a team like the Yankees with a pitcher when they are struggling. Because most people aren't, and they're playing the Yankees, somewhat blindly. When in reality, the majority of that Yankees lineup is weaker. They're just, you get the benefit by having Judge. But I didn't see it. I'm going to guess they don't have Goldschmidt in the lineup today either. Because Stanton's back. Goldschmidt's out with Rice playing first. Stanton being back doesn't, whatever. There's 2 strikeouts coming, in that spot. Grisham has cooled off a ton from all of his home runs. I'll take my chances with Soriano, who doesn't really allow many home runs either.
Right. No, it's fine. I was just obviously being contrarian to be contrarian, which is not something we want to do in DFS. It's fine for a YouTube show, but not necessarily for DFS. No trust in Eflin tattoo asks, and I don't know. After this, we probably could do a couple of don calls and throw it to the night.
I mean, I don't really trust Eflin in that ballpark against Tampa Bay at home. The way that they've performed at home from a power standpoint, I'm relying on Eflin in some dynasty leagues, some bigger money dynasty leagues. So I'll get my Eflin exposure there. But I don't like the home runs that he can allow, especially the left-handed bats. And the Rays have some dangerous ones at the top. Plus, Yandy Diaz has been swinging it really, really well. So just going to rely on Tampa's bats at home. A lot of my pitcher pool isn't really based on if I think they'll be fine. Like, I'm not really satisfied on a main slate hoping my pitcher gets 16 points. Like, I'm looking for my pitcher pool is comprised of guys that I think could be one of the top 2 highest raw scoring pitchers on the slate. So really guys that I think can get 25 plus fantasy points. So I just didn't see a route for Eflin to get there for me.
Let's hit it up with some home run calls here. I will tell you, I'm going to try and steal one of yours just because I'm an ass like that. And I just enjoy trolling you sometimes. I want to say this won't be one. I'm looking at some BVP numbers here. I'm going to waste it anyway. I'm going to say Jorge Polanco with 2 bombs against Giolito, since we know that Giolito can go either way. But Jorge is only 5 for 31 against Gio. So I'm going to say that's probably not somebody that you had your eyes on. And then I'm going to throw a second one out here too, because this is one I'm actually a little bit intrigued by. And 13 for 37 against Sandy Alcantara is Trey Turner. It's like a 351 batting average across a decent sample size. He's only got 1 bomb, but he does have a little bit of power against him, like an 860 OPS. So I would throw that one out there too and say those are a couple of guys that I might look up prop prices on. Not with a lot of hopes. I don't see a lot on this slate in terms of BVP. So you tell me what you like and what you don't like in terms of any kind of a home run call tonight, because I'm not seeing much outside of those. And those are lightning strike. Those are reaches anyway.
Yeah, home run calls for me today have been kind of difficult. Jordan Westberg, probably my main call. Taking on Pepiot, who I like, but Pepiot's reverse splits. Westberg's been hitting home runs the last week. Things kind of line up there in that spot. Seattle bat for me is going to be J.P. Crawford. He's been on fire the last 2 weeks.
I like the fact that at least both saw Seattle.
Yeah, so I mean, I like Crawford. Cal Rowley's always in play, even though he's kind of struggled a little bit recently. Rosarena, the other Seattle bat that I really like, which nobody ever talks about. Brent Rooker is another name that I have on my home run short list, along with Yandy Diaz. I think a lot of people go with like Brandon Lau for Tampa Bay, so I'm going to go with Yandy instead. Catcher position's just brutal tonight. 4 of the 5 guys that I had written in the notes are not in lineups, so it's kind of gross. But
yeah, that was when I scrolled down those cheat sheets and I saw all that red. That's why I asked. I was like, man, that's like most of your catcher pool.
Yeah,
or was.
It's not exciting. 2 of them were like probably should have known they weren't going to be in, but I thought for sure Real Muto would be, and then Austin Wynns I thought would be in the lineup. For the A's, the way that he swung it with Cincinnati, and then came over and showing power for the A's as well. But they went with a guy with the last name of MacGyver, actually McIver, but close enough to MacGyver.
It's Swiss Army knife.
Dart home run call. If you want a Philadelphia Philly against Alcantara, Max Kepler is my
Yeah, I don't mind that one. Dart. He's almost always he's a good sneaky dart. He hits enough. Let's see. Would you play? I'm going to let you answer this one, and then this will be the last question just for tonight, because I think it's a good one to always talk about. This slate's probably not big enough or not small enough for this, But Don asked, would you play the Rockies third baseman against the Washington pitcher? Do you ever, and if you do, when do you target, or when do you allow yourself to play a bat against one of your pitchers?
I mean, I do. Tonight wouldn't necessarily be a night. Usually it's 4-gamer or less for me, but there are some times based on pitching matchups where like I just don't feel great about pitchers that I do sneak one in. But generally when I do that, it's because the pitcher has a lot of K upside with them too. Like when they have K upside, like we can get away with giving up hits and runs more than we do when they're not a big upside guy. And I just don't know if Irvin is strong enough from a K upside standpoint. Obviously he has the K matchup, but he also just has the weak opponent matchup, and we're hoping for a bunch of clean innings as well. So I think it's tough to do it in that scenario. I know McMahon had a little bit of success against him. He's been hotter, but I also think McMahon has struck out a bunch against Irvin too. Looking at my notes, yeah, he has a home run and 8 at-bats against Irvin, but he also has struck out 5 times.
Yeah. Not that I knew that off the top of my head, but I trust your research when you say he struck out 5 times. It's boom or bust, like a lot of things. And you definitely don't want a little single against that guy. I mean, you want the guy to do damage if he's going to.
Yeah, I mean, you're just hurting yourself if he just hits a single.
Right.
So you'd really need it to be a home run, and then you need Irvin, after giving up a home run, to add an additional 1.5 strikeouts or so to his number. And right. I just don't know if he's, everybody's going to see, when people think about doing that, they're going to see that Strider struck out a bunch and Grant Holmes struck out a bunch against Colorado. So they almost expect Irvin to strike out a bunch. And we just got word that Logan Gilbert is going to throw about 80 pitches tonight.
There you go. So that caps that. And I wonder now, again, that's why this show is pretty important, is you can now watch those updates and see if you start seeing that ownership start to tick up. Next update, second update, third update, and it starts to kind of climb 0.5% or 1% each one. Doesn't just like, if it jumps, great. But if it even starts to creep, I guess for Logan Gilbert, creep down, then that's an easy pivot down to Irvin. Or if you see Irvin creeping up because of it. That's the stuff to watch. So I like it. Razzle didn't really talk Ohtani Dixon because there's not a lot to talk about in terms of, basically 1 inning type of work. So it's a non-starter for pitching, obviously, and he's always a viable bat. I guess that does it. Do you have any final thoughts for anybody tonight? I really don't, other than, guys, set your clock by 5:30 Eastern. We're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And sometimes you see Razzle, and sometimes you see a mix of the other guys. You usually get me, but I've been out the last couple of Fridays and whatnot. So it's his first start back, Dixon. It's no rehab starts or anything anywhere either. So there's just it's not like he's a full go. And so they're going to limit him heavy. Razzle, final thoughts, and we'll throw it.
Yeah, I mean, Dixon, he's only going to pitch 1 inning. He's still going to DH. Mm-hmm. They adapted that rule a couple years ago that allows him to, when he comes out of the game from being a pitcher, to stay in as DH. Now, it's not a completely made-up rule. This actually is a college baseball rule that allowed college baseball players to start at pitcher and be /DH. So that's just an adaptation. They just didn't bring it in until Ohtani became a face of baseball.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see in terms of when he starts getting the shackles taken off of him little by little and gets back to maybe full go. Maybe it's going to take some time. Anything else, buddy, or do I hit the end stream button and we'll see everybody tomorrow?
You can hit it. That's all I got.
Great. As always, dfarmy.com. Thanks, everybody, of course. Guys, the questions today were unbelievable. Thank you so much. 90 to 100 people in here watching the show on a regular basis. Show's growing, show's taking off. Use that coupon code MLB Live down there. Jump in for 10% off, or use the free week. You see the coupon out on Twitter, Summer 25, something like that. Get that free week. Get in here and start asking us more questions throughout the day. We'd love to answer them, and we'd love to help you guys get better. So for me and Razzle, you guys take care. We will talk to you tomorrow.